We're in.
We're in.
Hmm.
Matt's here. A couple people are here. Thanks for joining, guys. We're back for another weekly health report. Today we're talking fiber maxing is again on top of the search charts, but we're going to talk a little bit about mushroom maxing instead. We're going to talk women's cycles and fertility health in regards to hormone health. What do you think, Jay?
I love those topics. Hormone health and fertility health specifically. Mushroom maxing, I don't really know what that is. So I guess I'm going to learn a little bit today.
Well, one thing that keeps popping up is fiber maxing. Fiber maxing is a trend that's happening on TikTok and Twitter and stuff. Basically, just this whole fiber craze in the supplement world to help with digestion, microbiome diversity, metabolic health, and blood sugar stability. This, again, is just stemming from the foundation of the gut health and getting everything moving there. I saw a fella, his account's Mushy, at Mushy, I think, and he said mushroom maxing, which I really liked. Big surprise. But mushrooms have such a strong capability here, right? Like mushrooms bring all these amazing gut compounds like beta glucans. Beta glucans are these specialized soluble fibers that feed our gut. We're talking ergothioneine, which is like a unique antioxidant amino acid that protects the cells, the mitochondria health, really supports the gut health. Mushrooms are like the richest in this dietary source. So like when mushrooms we're cooking with, mushrooms we're supplementing with, all really good for this. And then there's all the micronutrients that come along with it. So this is like your B vitamins, your selenium, your copper, your potassium, like all that good stuff, which is all really supports the metabolism, our functional health. Um, when Why this really matters is everything stems from the gut, right? Like this is where our microbiome is being formed. This is where 80% of our serotonin, our dopamine, our hormones are being developed. This really stems into those nutrients, those micronutrients, and our immune signaling, like our metabolic health, as well as the prebiotic fibers and fiber that comes with mushrooms. So mushrooms are really like this just fiber 2.0. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really love that. And here's what I love about this. Like sometimes there's, when I consider things like biohacking or like some of these conversations around nutrition and stuff like that, um the cool thing is like mushrooms, I've always known it's like when I eat them I feel better, when I take them I feel better. So why is that? And when I was first started studying herbalisms, I remember one of the very first lessons that we learned was that so much going on in your body really comes back to the gut and the gut health. So you could be having this issue over here in your body, and it's actually, if you solve your gut health and your gut microbiome, that you'll see the results somewhere else in your body. And so I think that it's really cool that some of the science is starting to come out of what exactly is going on with the mushrooms that's helping us. So that makes a lot of sense. Like fiber. So fiber is allowing us to have healthy digestion. It's giving our gut microbiome something to chew on so that it can kind of digest and we can get these vitamins and minerals that we need. And that also the mushrooms have these vitamins and minerals in it. Like I didn't know that it had all of the vitamins and minerals. So sometimes we take, like you say, zinc and vitamin B and all that stuff, but it's actually in the mushrooms. And I'm curious if, and maybe you can speak to a little this about this more, is, if you take some of the vitamins and minerals on their own, they're always not absorbed in your body because they need like another, something else to be able to help it absorb. And I remember learning about this one plant, meadowsweet in particular, and the reason why I loved it was meadowsweet has the same compound in it that white willow bark does, that helps for pain relief. But we know like that compound in aspirin can be really hard on the gut. But meadowsweet had a built-in mucinogen in it, so it actually lines the gut. And then so it protects the gut lining as you're getting the pain relief. So I'm super curious about mushrooms, like you mentioned, that they have these vitamins and minerals in it. Are they like a whole plant and whole being so that you can absorb all of them at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question and a real big premise in how we've built our lineup and how we've, chosen to work with a lot of these plants and mushrooms and stuff. Because you do have that whole bio factor, right? Like when you're having all of these nutrients that come together from nature, it's like this is biologically the same language that our body can understand. So the way that our gut's absorbing it, the way that it supports the whole absorption process, the way that it works with the body, I think is really unique. And we're just starting to learn more and more about that. But I think that's a big reason why you see mushrooms help in all these array of areas, because you see it initially supporting the gut health, but then you'll see it support the inflammation, then you'll see it support the energy levels, then you'll see it support the clarity and everything that comes with that. So your stress levels go down, that coherence comes up, right? So I think it's a really big piece that we haven't really thought about too deeply yet, that we're starting to look at more now.
I really love this. And I remember a few years ago, we were down in Miami at a psychedelic conference, and they were talking, there was a panel, and then this conversation really stuck with me. And there was a panel, and they were talking about, they're having the conversation of synthetic versus natural, and the benefits and the negatives to each one. And sometimes as humans we go, oh, okay, we find this one compound, like the compound that was in white willow bark or meadowsweet, go, oh, this relieves pain, or this does this, and then we isolate it. And then and we go, okay, well, we're just going to take that. But what we really don't what we really, I think, could improve upon is looking at nature and looking how nature creates a whole thing. And so the conversation that was being had on the panel was with this woman, and she specialized in testing different like cannabis, psilocybin, all of the different plants. So she said that before, in cannabis specifically, they were always just testing for THC and CBD. But then as they got more to know the plant more, they started to find all these terpenes. And so the terpenes are what can tell, like, oh, if you take the cannabis and it's going to maybe help better with pain relief, or it's going to help better with sleep, or it's going to help you have an appetite, or whatever experience it is, you can tell by these terpenes. And so what she said about the mushrooms, she said, what do we not understand about mushrooms yet that we'll understand in the future? And these conversations, I think, are really important, and these studies are really important, because I think that there's so much going on with these mushrooms, because they're so different than a plant. They're a live being, they have like these mycelium, they have all of these different things that we don't understand yet, and we're starting to. So that, I think that's really cool, that mushroom maxing is coming up as a search topic, even though I don't know, the whole maxing thing, I think, is kind of this, like, I don't know, this term that it doesn't really landing with me yet. But I think that with mushrooms specifically, I think it's a good thing, because I think that there's so many pieces to working with these. I don't even want to call them plants, because they're so different, that can be really helpful.
Yeah. And mushroom maxing isn't really coming up in the charts. That's more when I saw that, I was like,
Okay.
oh, this is a fun topic. What's really come up is this fiber maxing. And I think it's that same frame where we have this, thought where we got to just, oh, this works for this, so we just got to go all in on it.
Right.
Where it really is, as we know more and more about this balance, right? But where mushrooms are really profound for that is the balance that they bring to the whole system.
Right.
And Adrian brings up a really cool point here. I also think it impacts the vagus nerve on a natural way. And, I think that's such a huge, huge part of that. We've seen great success with our Viva Vegas one, which is the turkey tail reishi and chaga blend, with a little magnesium and glutamine in it. And that vagus nerve being that one of the largest data highways to our brain, not only to that, but these different axes, right? When we're talking inflammation, when we're talking how the body communicates. So that in itself is such a big one when we're talking about the foundation and the gut health, and why mushrooms are really that, like, really that all around gut vitamin that can really support us, right?
Yeah, totally. I really love that blend too, because that was a perfect example of like feedback that we were getting on it. We designed it, for gut health, for vagus nerve support. But a common thing that happened for people when they took the blend is that they found they were sleeping better. And so here's a way, like mushrooms, like how, when you work on your gut health, how other problems that you're having may start kind of fading a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's such a cool point. And something that I've been doing is I've been doing this turkey tail chaga Vegas shot in the morning where I'm just having these right away. But why I started doing that was I was reading some research on how the gut microbiome is linked to our hormones. And so
Mm.
like when you activate the gut biome in the morning with a fiber supplement, or in this case mushroom supplement, you're activating that gut microbiome, which is communicating directly to the system where it's like, okay, it's time to wake up. So that gut biome starts to get activated. It's getting these good nutrients, but then it's going to start to peak the cortisol. We're going to start to create that circadian rhythm throughout the day, which is going to in turn help with our sleep, help with our cycle. And the body really benefits off having that repetitive cycle, right? And then we're more stable during the day, we're recovering properly, we're handling stress differently, we're not getting these ups and downs because we've created this more cyclical work within the body.
Yeah, I really love that. And that really touches on one thing I think is super important too. And I know one thing that I've struggled with supplementation over the years, consistency, and how, like, you can't just take some things one time and feel better. Like, you might feel a little bit better in the moment, but sticking with it is so important, because it's like a foundation. And you have, your gut microbiome is constantly growing, constantly changing. And so if you're like, okay, I got it now in check, and then you just decide to stop supporting it, you might notice things creeping back in. And you shared something interesting with me this morning when we were talking about, the topic for the live today, was that, when you poop, you actually lose a large amount of your gut microbiome. Like, it passes through, so you always want to be feeding it. And the mushrooms are a really healthy form of fiber. They have prebiotic component to it. So maybe, do you want to speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, it's a really fun fact, right? Because you think about how mushrooms work in nature and how they work as far as like helping the soil remineralize, helping the soil decompose and take all those
Yeah.
nutrients so the soil's rolling over. And the soil itself has a microbiome, and this is what the plants are feeding on and the plants are growing from and stuff, right? And our guts are actually very similar in how it works. So that gut microbiome is turning over every time we poop, we release a lot of it, and then it's rebuilding, and it's kind of like this fermentation process sort of thing that's going on. Fermentation might not be the right way to exactly speak to it, but I think you get what I mean as far as that microbiome reproducing and growing. So when we take that consistency, we're continuing to build that up. And that's so we're getting not only these ongoing effects, but the biome's getting stronger. So it's getting healthier, and then it can break food down more readily, right? And then when we're
Hmm.
integrating better diets and stuff, it's not as rattled if maybe we do have something sweet, or we do bring something in and we continue with that, like, because the biome is strong. So that consistency is so key with mushrooms. And some people notice things right away, like really quickly actually, when especially when it comes to the gut, if the gut is really needing these micronutrients, is really needing these biotics and the fiber and stuff, that it starts to turn over really quick. But we'll see really ongoing effects, kind of that 2 to 3 weeks. And that's really cool to see, because that's that biome getting stronger, and it really works very similar in how it works in nature, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then quickly, I guess we'll jump into some of the main ones. Like when we're talking gut health, turkey tail is a really big one, right? Turkey tail, that one has the most of these prebiotic fibers. That one has PSPs and PSKs, they're called, which are really great for the immune system. And it is just that one that really helps with that immune regulation and that overall inflammation, and is a really powerful mushroom. Chaga, you're really strong in these ergothiones, melanin, so this really helps with the cellular health, the aging effects, as well as having this base that is that gut fiber, that gut biome. And then like your lion's manes, your cordyceps, that's the really cool thing. They all have these beta glucans, so these are that's that fiber that's really helping the gut, and then the lion's mane supporting with the brain health as well as like the nerve health, where the cordyceps are really helping with the stamina, the blood flow, the ability for the body to get the nutrients more readily, right? So all these mushrooms have these unique ones, and there's thousands of them, like your maitake, shiitakes, all really great too, where we can integrate them into our food, into our diet, as well as into our supplementation routine.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, you've taught me so much about all the different mushrooms, and I really, one of the mushrooms that's quickly becoming my favorite that I know has always been one of your favorites. But the more I'm learning more about it is the cordyceps mushroom and how it works with the ATP and gives us energy. I was kind of more of a lion's mane for brain health and a reishi gal because I was like looking for like relaxation to my nervous system. But now that my nervous system is more regulated and I feel like I'm working through my brain injury, I'm really looking to cordyceps for energy. And and it's really been impactful in my life, to have this energy without like something caffeinated or sugar or something like that. It feels like I'm not getting that crash after, and it's been like a really healthy addition to my body.
Oh, I love that.
Mm.
Yeah, so when we're talking these mushrooms, like taking them right first thing in the morning can be a really good way to do it, whether that's with or without food, depending on how you work. And
Mhm.
that can be a really great way to help boost our gut during the day. And this rolls over into all of our different processes. So it's just a really cool one when we're talking about this fiber maxing and stuff like this. And like a different approach can be where you're getting your fiber and you're getting all these other nutrients too. You get more bang for your buck.
Totally.
Cool. All right, this I was excited to see this. So our next one here that is high on the search trend list is the rise of cycle literacy, which is one of the
Mm.
biggest shifts happening seemingly in women's health right now. It's a big move towards understanding the menstrual cycle, our biological rhythm, and how we work within it. So tuning in more to these devices and some of these apps and stuff like that, so we can kind of pre-plan and understand how our body's working when it comes to the women's complex cycle, and bring in some of these supplements, bring in some of the way we're training, the way we're approaching our day, that type of thing.
Oh my gosh, yes, I have so much to say about it. I'm very
I thought you
excited you
might.
brought this up. Okay, so I've been using a cycle tracking app for a few years now, and it's been so helpful for me. It's not something that I obsess over. It's not just like another thing, which I love. I can kind of just like plug in my data and just like, enter when I get my menstrual cycle, and then it kind of does the rest. But what I find it really good for is just to allow me to check in where I'm at and where I might be feeling. So, and how I might be feeling, and then how I can support myself, and also putting realistic expectations on myself and being compassionate with myself if I'm feeling a certain way. So before I was tracking my cycle, I think that I felt a little bit ragdolled by life a little bit. Sometimes, I really wanted to do things, and sometimes I didn't want to do things, and sometimes I was a little bit more grumpy, and some things I had all the energy and felt everything was great. And I thought that it was just me, or there was something wrong with me. But when I started to track my cycle, I was able to kind of like sink into myself in a different way. And you were so helpful with that, Brett. And I really thank you. You really helped me shift my perspective around my follicular phase to it being a really powerful time and not a time to be afraid of. So thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome.
um, so some things that I do with the cycle tracking app, in terms of supplementation, is like, for example, yesterday I looked at my app and I noticed that I was in my follicular phase and 4 days out from my period. No, because I've been tracking my cycle for a while now, I know that like 4 or 5 days out from my period is when I start to really get that fire that's rising within me. I might be a little bit more irritable. Things that didn't bother me before can really bother me, and I can kind of get those like ruminating thoughts and maybe have an explosion on somebody who's not expecting it. So knowing that about myself, I decided to take the shine that day, because the shine can kind of help soften my stress, soften my mood a little bit. And I actually had a really good day yesterday. I didn't feel any of those anxious feelings or those frustrated feelings. And so so by looking at the app, I can set myself up for success by taking my supplementation a little bit differently, and be more compassionate with myself. So I'm not expecting myself to do a lot of like heavy lifting in terms of like tasks or whatever. Like, I'm not going to take extra things on. I'm not going to expect myself to want to go out and maybe be more social. and just allow myself that space and that grace. And by doing that, it's really changed how I navigate my life, if that makes sense.
Cool. Cool.
Mhm.
This is the Flow app that you're using?
Yeah, it's like FLO. There's a bunch of them out there, and they're probably all very quite similar, but that's the one that I use.
Yeah, and it's so cool because so many of these hormones influence like our metabolism, our cognitive health, our sleep, our exercise performance, and with women, that's kind of a really big one when we're talking about the stages of the body, and if it is in a recovery phase, to not be hitting the workouts maybe so strong and like kind of switching it up to more of a yoga restorative type of practice when and then hitting your strength training at a different time. Do you notice
Mhm.
like are you adapting your workouts the way you're approaching that kind of thing with it as well?
Yeah, like I think that um I don't necessarily go, oh, okay, this is my follicular week and I'm going to just make sure I only do yoga. I do what feels right. And I think it is important to, you know, like, oh, it's always like just folding too. I don't think is healthy, being like, oh, okay, I'm just, because I find if I do that, if I'm just like, oh, I'm on my phase and I'm just going to use that as an excuse to not move my body. So I think finding a balance with that is important. I've been focusing the last probably almost a year. I've switched from like HIIT training to more weight training, and I find that's been really helpful. And I find that I can do the heavy lifting of weights even when I'm in my follicular phase, because it's not that like boom, 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 like really run myself out kind of workout. And it gets my body moving and it really helps with my mental health. So I think that I think it's healthy to set up your workout routine to match where your cycle is, but also not to just use your cycle as like a crutch or an excuse to not do, to totally fold. If that does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Hmm.
it makes a ton of sense because you want to
Yeah,
you want to be aware of it, also not feeding into it and still moving through it strongly and feeling it all and working with what's going on.
that's right. And a beautiful teaching from our friend Tua, from the Shenandoah tribe. It's like meeting it with firmness. And so, yes, I'm not going to feel, maybe it's not best that I'm like, doing all these high output things. I'm going to maybe adjust my supplementation, but I'm going to also meet it with firmness, and I'm going to meet myself with firmness and discipline, and
Cool.
and really be the creator of my own life.
I love it. I love it.
Hmm.
If you don't mind, what I thought could be cool, it's like going through each phase and just how you approach it from a supplementation level, like how the mushrooms, how the plants have helped you in that way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, starting off follicular phase. So that's right after you get your period. So that's when you're feeling strongest. You might feel like you have a lot of energy. So every single day I take the Salty Goddess and I start off with that. It really gives me the hydration that I need. It has all the vitamins and minerals that I need. So at least I know no matter what phase I've been that I've started my day off with that. I've also been taking the Wise Woman now consistently, and I've really noticed a massive difference in my hormone health. But other than that, when I'm in my follicular, I don't do a lot of other supplements. I might take, Viva Vegas in the morning for my gut health, but I'm usually feeling pretty good in my follicular phase, so I don't really need anything else. So moving to the ovulation phase, that's when it's like you're ovulating. So you're like maybe really like feeling yourself. You're like good. You just like you're in your bad bitch energy. That one I know I'm coming up into my luteal. So that's maybe when I'll start looking at kind of really boosting my gut health. So taking some extra turkey tail or some lion's mane to kind of set myself up for when I get into my luteal. And my luteal and my menstrual is where the supplementation really starts to change. So after you ovulate, then what happens is your progesterone is going to drop. And so um, one thing I will say about progesterone drop is it can be more dramatic if your cortisol is spiking all month. So if I've noticed that my cortisol is spiking, I'll kind of loop in with the shine to kind of help bring it down to a manageable level. For a while, like as an entrepreneur, I was going and, mother and life and stuff. There was a time in my life where my cortisol was out of control. How did I notice that? I was waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't able to get back to sleep. I was getting puffiness in the face and fat around the belly that just no matter what I did wouldn't go away. My hair was thinning. And the biggest thing too is my PMS was like, oh my God. And so what happens when your cortisol is spiking, it affects your progesterone when you get into your luteal phase. So that's after you've ovulated, your progesterone really drops. And that's where you can get that really, really intense PMS. So so if I notice that my cortisol is spiking, preparing for my luteal phase, I'll start taking the Shine Blend to kind of bring my cortisol down so that my luteal phase won't be so dramatic. So that's one thing that I'll incorporate. So yeah, if you have a cortisol problem, take that all the time until you get your cortisol under check. But once you have your cortisol under check, then you can just kind of notice like, oh, you had a really stressful event happen. Let's get my cortisol in check so that my luteal phase isn't so dramatic. So yeah, now stepping into my luteal phase, this is when I start to feel a little bit more like inward. I may be a little bit more irritable. My progesterone's dropping. So I'll boost with the Shine. I'll also notice too, sometimes in my luteal phase, like my muscles will start getting a little bit more sore and achy. Like I'm just a little bit more sensitive. So it's not even just emotionally sensitive, it's physically sensitive. So I'll loop in the Relief if I need to. And then moving towards the menstrual phase. So that's when you get your period. So that one for me, the Relief is like so important. I also sometimes struggle sleeping, so I'll loop in the Deep Dream, but the Relief really helps with the cramps. I can be like full on cramps and then just take 2 of those, and within 45 minutes to an hour, they're gone. And it just really helps bring down the inflammation in a healthy way. And then yeah, the Deep Dream to kind of help me get to sleep. And then yeah, we're back into the follicular, and then it's Fun Jay is back. So
What a ride. What a
right
ride.
around the clock, and then we get to do it all over again.
That's cool though. I think what I really like and what I've been grateful about this process is we've got to learn so much from each other through that, and how you can work with the body and its cycles and start to tune into, especially with the women, like it is this cycle that's happening every time, so you can start to preemptively boost the nutrients so the body, so it's not such a like kind of like railroad event, and you can,
Yeah.
and it eases it together. You start to work with it, and as well as like following the cycle, bringing in the way we're eating, the way we're working out, stuff like that. So you're basically then the salty goddess, the wise woman. Those are those consistent all the time, and
Yeah.
then you're bringing in the Shine, kind of that fall, that last 2 weeks, and then the Relief
Mhm.
for that last week.
Yeah, those are my those are my key blends that I work with. And then I'll loop in the other ones kind of like as needed. And then you said something too, food I noticed does really change like the food that I eat throughout my cycle, like in my follicular and menstrual phase. I notice that I'm eating lighter, I'm not as hungry. Lighter foods really feel good to me. And then as I get into the luteal and menstrual phase, like I'm craving richer foods, like heartier foods, more comforting foods, and just like allowing my body to crave those things. Because I think in the past, before I was aware of like my cycle, I would be like, oh, I shouldn't be eating this right now, or why do I want to eat this stuff? And it's like, no, that's not what my body's craving, because it wants to like slow down and just like be inward a little bit more with the food that I'm eating.
Cool. Yeah, that's a really interesting piece, because that's such a big part of it too, right? Like if we're able to
Mhm.
tune into that, it gives the body so much more to work with.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I love that. So the final one that was up there that I was actually pretty surprised to see, I haven't seen this one yet. Fertility and hormones as whole body health signals. So starting to look at the fertility and then how that's connected to our overall health when we're talking about women's health. Has
Yeah.
this been one that's come up in conversations you've been having?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, in our late 30s, early 40s, so it's not as much the fertility conversation, but it is because some women are trying to get pregnant in this phase in their life. um And fertility is like a signal of overall health, and I think that there's so much going on in our food systems, in our cosmetics, in all of these different medications that we're taking that affect our overall health. And if our overall health is struggling, our body can't be in a place where we can reproduce. And that's not, fertility is such a complex topic because there's so many things that's going on that can affect fertility, and that can be a really hard um, topic for women specifically, because we feel like we've done something wrong or there's something wrong with us. And so it can be a really sensitive place to navigate. But there are so many things that you can do, that you can adjust in your life, that will help set your body up for success to be as healthy as it can be, so that it be possible for you to conceive a child.
For sure, for sure. And what I thought was neat about this is it's yes, the fertility for conceiving a child, but it's also not looking at it from that lens. Like it's looking at
Mm,
the fertility as an indicator to the overall health of the woman, especially when we're
right.
talking women in their 20s and 30s. Like you said, there's so many factors right now as far as what we're learning from our health system, from our food system, in ways that we've kind of gone a little bit off track in how our food is, and all these additives in the foods and all these things that could be affecting the fertility health. And that goes the same in men when we're talking testosterone and stuff like that. But just to keep it in the topic that we're on, I think that looking at these hormones as these indicators for that overall health is really important to look at, because it might not necessarily be just about getting pregnant, but it's also just how the overall body is responding. Because if we are fertile, like I think it's a big, in many cases, an indicator of like how healthy our hormones are, our cycle,
Hmm.
what could be indicating that where something might be off, and that kind of thing, and hopefully not taking it as like a personal thing of I'm not worthy or any of these things, but able
Hmm.
to look at it like, oh man, like where is my cycle off? What's going on here? Um,
Yes.
yeah, so I thought that was a kind of cool way to look at it, when because like so much of this is interconnected, and like the brain, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, so like the memory, the brain fog, the ovaries, the metabolic signaling, the stress response, like you mentioned, the cortisol, right? So it's another interesting indicator, I think, that women can potentially look at, especially if you're in your 20s and 30s, of your overall hormone health. If you're feeling
Hmm.
off and they're not really able to find something, but maybe that fertility is a little bit off, it might be that thing like, oh man, maybe something in my diet, or maybe something that I'm doing, maybe something in my life is throwing things off a little bit. Yeah, I thought that was just a really neat lens, because there's so many factors that play a role in that.
Yeah, totally. And especially for young women, like we're offered synthetic hormones at a very young age to solve problems that aren't even related to fertility. So, taking hormonal birth control, I think is, if a young woman doesn't want to get pregnant and she's having sex, like absolutely. But, hormonal acne, extreme period cramping, there's all of these other things that women are offered birth control for. Like my friend's daughter was 14, had some acne going on, and the first thing out of the doctor's mouth was birth control. And I'm not saying this to demonize birth control, because I think that there's a time and a place for it. But I know for me, it was a roller coaster. Like I was on it, I was off it, I was, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And so my cycle, I don't even know what it was doing when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so I think having for women to have awareness around what their cycle doing is a beautiful indicator for their overall health, and what's going on in their body.
Can this tie into the apps and these sort of things? Can you see through the app, like when you're kind of journaling about it, where things might be out of place?
Yeah, there's the one that I use gives an option for like, oh, how are you feeling today? For you to like put in your symptoms, and then you put in when you get your menstrual cycle, so it can kind of track and be like, okay, like you're looking pretty consistent. Or it can start to say, like, it'll give you feedback like, oh, you're at this age in your life, you might start noticing this or whatever. So it's actually quite beautiful. It can give you lots of feedback of what might be going on. Um, and I think the important thing for women, it's like, you're not broken, but there's always things that you can do to improve. So it's not like, you've done anything wrong, and it's not like people have done anything. I really don't want to slip into this victim mindset either of like, I was given birth control, or you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, we did the best that we knew at the time. And now that we have some awareness around it, or you have some awareness around it personally, what small, meaningful changes can you make in your life that's going to benefit your hormone health, that's going to benefit your fertility, that's going to benefit how you feel in your body? Um, can maybe be the conversation that you're having with yourself instead of like, I'm broken and I need to fix something.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
Mhm.
that. Thank you for bringing that up, because that piece is, it's a signal, it's an indicator from our body. So it's more
Yeah,
like, it's a cool thing. It's like, how can we look at it from a place of like, oh, this is showing like I'm in a different place now. How can I
yeah,
approach things that are going to help me for where I want to go, where I want to be right now?
yeah,
And with all these trends, it's fun to talk about like what people are searching, what we're all looking at, that type of thing. But it's really important to look at what works for you, whether that be birth control, whether that be natural approach, whether whatever it is. Just how does it work for you? Are you happy with how you're feeling? Are you happy with how your day to day? And then and then breaking it down if there's ways we can improve it.
yeah, exactly. That's always the first thing I ask somebody when, like, if we're at an event or something like that, and they're like, okay, what do I need? And I'm like, well, what do you want to shift in your life right now? Like, what do you want to improve in your life? And then it's a really cool question, because then people think about it and they go, oh, maybe I don't want to actually improve anything. Like, and we're just in this like mindset that we always need to fix something, or, oh, okay. Then they actually think about it and they feel, you know what? I haven't been sleeping the best. But like, until you just like sit and ask yourself, like, what do you want to improve in your life? And then, finding a suggestion or making a small change can really have big effects and positive effects. And to loop it back to the beginning of our conversation, so much of it begins with your gut. And so if you don't know where to start and you're just like, oh, I'm feeling off, or my hormones are out of whack and I don't really know what to do, it's just like, get that gut health going and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a beautiful point too. Like, doesn't matter male or female, like that gut health, if things are, we're trying different supplements, nothing's working, like
Mhm.
simplifying and just focusing on that gut health for a month or two is like the simplest way that you can really just like simplify it and see these results. Then we can start to kind of fine tune it from there, but it's
Yeah.
such a huge foundational piece, and I love how it ties all these topics together.
Hmm. Hmm.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, that was a fun one.
Yeah, that was great. I love talking about women's hormone health too. So
Yeah,
thank
well,
you.
women's day is coming up here, so
Mhm.
we're gonna have a lot of more women's topics and stuff come out throughout the month. And thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Live
Thanks for
salty,
having
live
me.
salty, my
Live
friend.
salty.